September 5th, 2017, Riverton City Council Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:45 p.m. The chair would entertain a motion for the consideration of claims.
Madam Chairman, I would recommend that we approve bills to be claims to be paid in the amount of $272,819.08, manual checks in the amount of $31,373.30, payroll and liabilities for 8/18 of 17 in the amount of $334,608.25, for a total of $638,800.63.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion?
I just was noting, and we've had some discussion, particularly earlier in the year, about the jail bill, and I had looked on this, and I'm trying to find it. But if I remember right, it was less than $5,000.
Your Honor, it's $4,800 this month.
And then we had a high earlier this year.
$15,000. We had one, Your Honor, that was $15,000, one that was $12,000, and then we've gotten it down to around $6,000 and now $4,800.
What do you attribute that to, Chief Murphy?
Your Honor, so my very first day as interim chief, I met with Courtney Bolander, the city administrator. We went over that very thing. She asked me to look at it. So we've done some outside-the-box thinking. I feel like one of my responsibilities as the chief is to look at our policies and procedures. We have changed a few of those things, and I feel like that is the biggest attributor to the jail bill going down. It's just a few little policy changes, some of our ideals and how we do business, and I think it's paid off.
That's all I wanted to talk about.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Do you have anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, September 5th, 2017, regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 p.m. Would Councilmember Larson lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and after that, Councilmember Hancock will give us an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to meet as a city council and with the other citizens of the city of Riverton tonight. We ask Thee that we can have our minds quickened and enlightened as to the decisions we make and to the effect that they will have on the citizens of Riverton, and that we can take our responsibility seriously, and that we can make the decisions that will benefit the greatest number of citizens and be able to help improve the city in various ways. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would the city clerk please conduct a roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Holly Gibbon.
Here.
Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilman Tim Hancock.
Here.
Councilman Lance Scody.
Here.
Mayor John Baker.
I am present, declare that we have a quorum. I guess we should excuse Sean Peterson tonight. He's apparently a referee in a football game. Be here a little later, so can I have a motion to do that?
Your Honor, I would move that we excuse Councilman Peterson.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. I declare that we do have a quorum. Chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented, with the addition of an update and acceptance of airport grants to be followed by item number 14, and the addition of the August 17th, 2017 executive session minutes to the consent agenda.
I move to approve with the amendments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye, and the motion passes. Communication from the floor. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is already on the agenda will be given an opportunity to speak later on. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium, identify yourselves for the record. Consent agenda. Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda by items? Consent agenda items by title only.
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, August 15, 2017, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, August 17, 2017, special council meeting. Approval of the minutes, August 17, 2017, executive session. Approval of the minutes, September 5, 2017, finance committee meeting. Approval of the finance committee recommendations for September 5, 2017. Approval of the discharged fines for deceased defendants for August 2017. Adoption of ordinance number 17-016 on second reading. Proposed ordinance number 17-016, an ordinance amending Title 13 Public Services, Chapter 13.20 Sewer Service System to revise Section 13.20.340 collection fees and charges rates generally of the Riverton Municipal Code and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date. Adoption of ordinance number 17-018 on second reading. Proposed ordinance number 17-018, an ordinance amending Title II Administration and Personnel to repeal and replace Chapter 2.12 City Clerk and establish, to revise Chapter 2.12 City Clerk and establish Chapter 2.13 Finance Director of the Riverton Municipal Code and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any items that require further discussion?
Your Honor.
Go ahead, Holly.
Recommendations from the Finance Committee for bills to be paid in the amount of $272,819.08. Manual checks in the amount of $31,373.30. Payroll liabilities for 8/18 of 17 in the amount of $334,608.25 for a total of $638,800.63.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, I would abstain from the Bailey Enterprises items on the finance report.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye and the motion passes. The next item is the introduction and oath of office of Riverton Police Department. David Milovich, Police Chief's report, please.
Your Honor, City Council, it is my great pleasure to introduce David Milovich as our newest police officer. He's the first officer that I've hired as the chief of police, and I can tell you that, as you guys know, my philosophy is that the police department is a family. I feel like the city's a family, and we could not have picked a better younger brother than David Milovich. This guy makes us laugh every single day that he comes to work. We all pick on him, and he takes it in stride. And we could not have picked a better person to be part of the Riverton Police Department family. So it is my great pleasure to introduce David Milovich, his wife Betsy, who we've known for quite a while. They have 2 kids. David was raised here in Riverton, graduated from Riverton High School, and has been with us about 3.5 months. He's in training still, and so with that, Mr. Mayor, if you want to come down and do the oath, that would be fantastic.
You bet. Thank you. You've got a copy of that. You can read it so that you don't have to try to memorize what I'm saying. And I hope everybody can hear me, because I really have got not much of a voice. Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly violated any law
that I have not knowingly violated any law
related to my election or appointment,
related to my election or appointment,
or caused it to be done by others,
or cause it to be done by others,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. you can sign that right here, and I'll sign it right there. And let's do an elbow bump because toxic. Okay, and so we're going to pin a badge on it?
Yes, sir. His wife Betsy's gonna.
All right, there you go.
Put it on Dean.
David, work your way around the dais here and shake everybody's hand.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard. We did.
Welcome.
We're glad to have you here with us, David. Would the city clerk please read ordinance, let's see. Adoption of ordinance 17-015, third and final reading, yard sales. Community Development Director's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. This is our third reading on our yard sale ordinance, and council requested that we do one final change on this ordinance. And it was in section 1, number 11. We changed it to read a garage sale that is consistent with chapter 17.20.050 of the Riverton Municipal Code shall not be considered a home occupation. And that's the only thing that we changed since the last reading. And I believe that is what was requested. Thank you.
Do it or not, I got it. Thank you. Would the city clerk please read ordinance 17-015 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 17-015 on third and final reading. An ordinance amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.20 accessory uses, Section 17.20.040 home occupation, adding 17.20.040A11, and adding Section 17.20.050 garage yard sales and signs of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 17-015 on third and final reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we approve ordinance 17-015.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Do you think we got this massaged and ready to go? Huh? Would the city clerk please conduct a roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Lance Godey.
Aye.
Councilman Tim Hancock.
Aye.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Holly Gibbon.
Aye.
Mayor John Baker.
Yes. I declare that the motion is passed. Approval of resolution 1359 designating official depository. City clerk's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Pursuant to statutory requirements, anytime the city designates an official depository, it has to be approved by the council. We were approached by Wyoming Community Bank with an interest in becoming an official depository. Every year, the beginning of the year, the first meeting in January, we designate the official depositories. They're required to submit an application and a resolution by the Board of Directors. Wyoming Community Bank has not been eligible to do that in the past because of their securities. However, that has changed, and so they have requested to become a official depository. Currently, we have 5 official depositories: Bank of the West, Central Bank and Trust, First Interstate Bank, U.S. Bank, and Wells Fargo Bank. And we're just requesting the addition of Wyoming Community Bank.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 1359.
Your Honor, I move that we approve resolution number 1359.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye, and motion passes. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance 17-017, first reading, street sizes. Community Development Director's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. We had some design criteria for developing streets within the city of Riverton that has been located in an area where no one could find this information. And it was our cross-sections on the sizes that the streets had to be. We had in this, I think it's under Chapter 16, we had the easements, the sizes of the easements that were required, but we didn't have what the information for the contractors to decide how wide they needed to make the streets and the sidewalks and those types of things. Well, I happen to know where it was located, and it was located in a strange place behind a section for planned unit development. And it wasn't even listed in a table of contents or anything, and it was called Appendix A, street cross-sections. So it had been talked about for quite some time, and after finding it for a engineer just recently, he suggested that we move it to a better location, so we decided we would go ahead and do that. So what we have done now, we did update those drawings a little bit. The drawings that were in Appendix A had been copied and copied and copied, and they weren't very professional. So we had our engineering tech design those with his AutoCAD, and so we have inserted them and put them in a section very near where the easement requirements are. And so we have that in Chapter 16.16 and named it Design Standards. And we put it under 16.020 Streets, Alleys, and Easements. And so we believe that that will be a much better location for people to find that. What we also had to do, because in the books and online, if you knew where to look for that, it still lists Appendix A. So we're also repealing just that section that's listed under planned unit development, under PUD in that section.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The chair would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Your Honor, I would move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to open public hearing. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye, and motion passes. I now declare the public hearing to be open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourselves for the record. There being none to speak, chair would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Close public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I now declare the public hearing to be closed. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 17-017.
Your Honor, can I read that by title only, please?
Didn't you do that?
Not yet.
Did I jump over that? I'm sorry.
Accidentally.
Read that by title only for me.
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 17-017 on first reading, an ordinance amending Title 16 subdivisions, Chapter 16.16 Design Standards, Section 16.16.020 Streets, Alleys, and Easements, adding 16.16.020 in Street Design Criteria, and repealing Section 16.24.010 Appendix A Street Crossing section, or street cross sections of the Riverton Municipal Code and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'm sorry. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 17-017 on first reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we approve ordinance 17-017 on first reading.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Oh, I assume there was no discussion. I'm sorry. Mayor votes aye and the motion passes. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 17-019, first reading, incarceration for public intoxication, interim city administrator's report.
Yes, Your Honor. This is ordinance number 17-019, and I am going to refer this to Councilman Hancock. I never thought I would ever say this, but it's nice to have an attorney, an elected official that does not charge the city, and to have the expertise. He would be able to explain this better than I would. Councilman
Great.
Hancock?
So, and I guess the thing that helps with this too is that I actually spent some time as the Riverton City prosecutor, and I say some time, but it was quite some, well, it was a couple of years. And so, when Ms. Bolander was telling me about this, it made absolute sense. And so where this stems from is, as it stands right now in the city ordinance, if you are publicly intoxicated, the ordinance allows you to be arrested, but it does not provide for any sort of jail as a penalty. So in other words, you'd be arrested, you'd be taken before the judge, and you'd be given a fine. Well, what happened was recently the Wyoming Supreme Court, and I was trying to get this case up, but I don't have my iPad and I just have my phone, and it makes things a little bit slower for me, and it could take a while anyway. But they recently decided a case where they said, at least in Casper, there was a municipal ordinance, and it provided for a fine only. And the judge was placing people on probation. And so the Supreme Court said, you can't put somebody on probation unless you have a penalty available that's a jail penalty. And so I actually, once I read this case, I went to Megan over at the court and said, hey, has the judge read this? She might want to look at this. And so it really came as no surprise that then Mr. Sollers came and was like, hey, we need to fix this. So basically, this is meant to address, as it is, people that are arrested for public intoxication, what Judge McKee will frequently do because they have an issue, alcoholism or an addiction issue. The judge will order them to get a substance abuse evaluation. She might order them to stay at the Center of Hope as an alternative to jail. Or, sometimes might order them to stay out of City Park. Well, all of those things are probation conditions. And so to address that and give the judge more tools to deal with public intoxication, making this so this is a jailable offense rather than just a finable offense, I think would be the best way to do that. It gives her the ability to do that, and it makes it so that if somebody is put on probation, we're not violating anything that the Supreme Court says not to do. So that's where this ordinance would come from.
Thank you. And so that incarceration for up to 6 months is within the limits of what the city can impose.
Correct, yes. That's the most, would be up to 6 months. It's what they call a low misdemeanor.
Okay.
I will note that the Wyoming statute for the being intoxicated on a roadway is punishable for 20 days in jail for a first offense, 30 days in jail for a second offense, and I think 180 for a third offense. But I think really to be consistent with all of the other misdemeanors that we have, having this just be a maximum of 180 gives the judge all the tools that she needs. A probation term can only be as long as the maximum period of incarceration.
Gotcha.
So this gives her the option of 6 months of probation.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please read ordinance 17-019 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 17-019 on first reading. An ordinance amending Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare, revising Chapter 9.08, Offenses Against Public Peace and Decency, Section 9.08.200, Public Intoxication of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
The chair would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Your Honor, I would move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye. I now declare the public hearing open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourselves for the record. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak?
Seeing none, Your Honor, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Moved and seconded to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye. Public hearing is now closed. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 17-019 on first reading.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 17-019 on first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Mike?
Your Honor, I have a question, I would assume for Tim probably, but is there a state or county ordinance against being, against public intoxication?
No. No, the closest thing we have in the state statutes would be, as I was saying, the being intoxicated on a public roadway. That's the
Okay.
closest we have. And actually, I think part of the change in the jail bill is when we've had people that have been through the system a lot and wanting to have other options to deal with them, the police department has sometimes been arresting those people as being intoxicated on a public roadway. Partly because it actually had a jail sentence that was possible as opposed to just a fine and being held until court.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Go ahead, Lance.
Chief Murphy, would that be a correct assessment? I saw the head nod. Kind of what's your perspective of this as far as impact on the police department or?
Your Honor, as far as the jail bill itself or just in general?
Just both, maybe both.
Right, so I can tell you that the pedestrian under the influence, which is the state statute, we're allowed to use that as far as when they're on Federal or Main Street because those are state-maintained highways. So anytime we can do that, we will obviously do that instead of the public intox city ordinance charge. And it just gives you a little bit more teeth, as Councilman Hancock said.
Would you anticipate then that a change like this would see an increase in jail usage that result in a reversal of our fortunes of lower cost, or?
I don't think so, because this is just one small piece of my outside-the-box thinking. And so maybe a little bit, but not to where we're going to notice a big difference. There are so many other pieces to that puzzle that I'm more than happy to talk to you about. This is just one little part of it.
Right, okay. Thank you.
I could mention here that in the discussion in the packet, it says here that they have, if the judge orders individuals who are charged with public intoxication to jail time or incarceration, she then has the ability to put them on probation and mandate individuals obtain an evaluation. So the evaluation is an important step in dealing with the individual's substance abuse issues. and allows us then to maybe program him quicker into the system for some kind of rehabilitation.
Right.
And so then which is something that we have not been able to do in the past. And so we have budgeted $4,000 in this budget year to do evaluations. So this gives us a tool to allow us to actually accomplish that. So I think that's a positive step in that direction, and then helps us actually deal with the problem and help the individual, deal with it in a better way than simply putting him in jail for a couple days.
True. I totally support that.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance 17-020, first reading, adopt National Electrical Code, 2017 edition. Community Development Director's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Every 3 years, the National Electrical Code is updated, and the state of Wyoming then adopts the newest edition, usually by July of that year. We're currently operating under the 2014 at this point in time, and in order to maintain home rule, then we have to adopt it also within a certain length of time. We did had a meeting with our Construction Board of Appeals. They help us with these codes on occasions, and they did discuss the changes that were between the 14 and the 17 code. And they did pass a motion that as soon as the state adopted a new code, we would also do the same thing. So they did pass that unanimously. All our registered contractors, electrical contractors, will be notified of that change. Normally, we would have to pay for these books for each change, ones that are required to be in our building and also for our use, but some of our staff actually took a class that the state put on, and they gave us electrical books at that time, so we won't have to pay to buy those this time. And so we would like your approval on adopting the 2017 National Electrical Code.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please read ordinance 17-020 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 17-020 on first reading, an ordinance amending Title 15, Building Construction, Chapter 15.04, Building Construction and Maintenance Codes, Section 15.04.010A10, adoption, applicability, filing of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we open a public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye. I now declare the public hearing to be open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourselves for the record. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak?
Your Honor, it doesn't appear that anybody wants to talk about this in the audience, so I'd move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye, and I declare the public hearing to be closed. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 17-020 on first reading.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 17-020 on first reading.
Second.
Your Honor. I have a question.
Mr. Larson.
What's the cost towards building with this newer code? How will that affect any construction, or what is the importance of changing from 14 to 17? What is the improvement in safety and beneficial to the city of Riverton?
Your Honor,
Go ahead, Sandy.
Other than being compliant?
there were several changes within the code. There were some items that actually were less strict. There were other items like the arc fault breakers, I think, that are now required pretty much everywhere in a house, which they're substantially more expensive than a regular breaker is. I can't remember some of those. If you would like to know a list of those types of changes that were made, I can sure get that to you. Terry Betts from Betts Electric did present to the Construction Board of Appeals most of those changes, so I could get that to you if you'd like.
But to the best of your knowledge, it wasn't a 10% increase or something like that?
I don't believe so. My city inspector is agreeing with me. We don't think it's very substantial.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? What is the problem if we don't adopt it?
Your Honor, we would probably lose home rule. And we would not be able to do inspections. The state would come and do the inspections for the city of Riverton.
That wouldn't be very timely, I'll bet.
But then the state would,
And they would still require that it follows the 2017 code.
okay,
It
so
still has to, no matter how you look at it, you will still be under the 2017 code.
just kind of, who's going to do the inspection work?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye, and motion passes. Update and acceptance of airport grants. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me ask that I briefly a few positive developments that have been going on with our capital projects at the airport and also the grants that support those projects. I'm happy to report that the city has successfully received 3 of the 4 grants that we applied for last January. And just to remind the council of what those grants were, maybe I'll skip the numbers because it gets a little jumbled, but I'll describe the projects themselves. We were able to receive federal and state dollars for a project to replace our lighting and signage on Taxiway D and Runway 119. We were able to receive federal and state dollars for the redesign of our general aviation apron. And then we were also able to receive state dollars for the purchase of a new snowplow up at the airport. And then we, and this one I'm very excited about. We received approval from the state of Wyoming to help us replace some fading markings on Taxiway D and Runway 119. Some of you remember that last January we came to the council and asked for conditional approval to apply for a grant to replace this, these pavement markings. And the reason why it was conditional is because we didn't know if we'd get money from the state. And it was something that was required by the FAA for safety purposes. They have hit us twice in our 139 certificate inspections that these markings were faded and no longer acceptable. And I'm happy to report that in working with the state of Wyoming, we were able to get this project put into their budget this year as an emergency project, and that we were able to receive the funds associated with it. And so I'm happy to report that 3 of these grants that we've applied for, we've received, and we are on the verge of receiving the 4th. The last one that's outstanding is the redesign of the general aviation apron. And the reason why we haven't got it yet is because staff has been working on engineering costs. We are required to do what's called an independent fee estimate anytime we do a significant engineering project at the airport. And what that means is we utilize our existing consultant, the proposal from our existing consultant, and compare it against a third party. And we recently received back that independent fee estimate, our consultant was significantly lower than what the third-party estimate was. And so now that we have that, we anticipate our fourth and final grant to be coming shortly. Another thing that I think Courtney would like to have happen is allow for the record to reflect that we've received these grants and give the council the opportunity to accept them. And so I would like to ask the council to accept these grants that we applied for and kind of highlight in the record some of the positive movement that we're making on these projects and the funding that we're receiving. And so that's my quick report highlighting these developments, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions regarding these grants.
Thank you. Mike?
Your Honor, Al, I remember we have talked about all these projects, and do we have the city's portion of those projects in our current budget?
Your Honor, Councilman Bailey, we have 3 of the 4 in our budget with line items and appropriate funds. The only one that we don't have is that emergency project I referenced for the markings. And in working with Ms. Bolander and the finance team, we feel comfortable in moving forward with the emergency grant because we had such a good bid opening for the taxiway D signage project. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we reported on that, and it came in almost half of what the engineer's estimate was. And so because of that good bid result, we have room now to utilize, maybe I should say redivert those funds that were budgeted and have them go towards this marking project that will help us with our FAA inspection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the chair would entertain a motion to accept grant numbers ARIW 32A, ARIW 33A, and ARIW 35A.
So moved.
Your Honor, I apologize. This is my mistake. I didn't include one of those grants when I communicated to Megan. Could we also add ARIW 34A?
34A.
That was my mistake.
ARIW 34A. Okay. So Kyle said,
So moved.
so moved.
Second.
Mike said, second. Discussion.
Sorry, Mr. Bolander, I could not remember all of those, so just had to do it.
Okay. All right. So, okay, so, this is to make up for a mistake that I made. And, well, okay, so Kyle was gone having a baby. And so this grant came in from the state for a project that we'd already approved the bid on. And so I went ahead and signed the grant, but I didn't think about the council not having actually approved the receipt of that grant. And so the auditors would like to have a better paper trail than that. So in the future, when we do this, we're going to try to be real careful and make sure that when we pass that motion, we say all the right words in it, so that the mayor has the authority to sign all necessary documents to make it happen. Okay?
So, Your Honor, if we don't approve this, that mean you got to make up the difference?
I would probably have to do that. I don't know. No, I just, so we did approve I just saw that as a big package and said, well, we approved the bid, said go ahead and do it. So in order to make that happen, I had to get the state money. So I said, okay, I'll just do that. But we need to do a little better job of record keeping, and you've hit my weakness here. Is that I can understand and read all kinds of things into any motion that comes across the table, and feel very comfortable with it, because I think I know what you understand, what you meant. But when we come back and try to read the record, then it's vague, and so then we don't understand what we meant. And so we need to be more careful and have more precise language in our motions. So I think we're going to try to work on a process whereby if we've got some motion like that, we'd like to be very careful. We'll get it written out ahead of time and pass it around so that everybody has a chance to see it, can actually read it. Or we'll get it built into the script and I can read it and then somebody can say so moved. So we'll try to do that so we get the language better. All right, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye and the motion passes. Thank you. Council committee reports and council members roundtable. So, Ms. Gibbon, have you got anything for us tonight?
I don't.
Mr. Peterson?
I do not.
Mr. Larson?
Yeah, I was quite proud of being here in Riverton and seeing what the police did in respect to the eclipse and the way they dealt with people. And probably this is late, but I was proud to think that they were representing us. Thank you.
Amen to that. Mr. Bailey?
Yes, last Thursday, I think it was, I had the pleasure of attending the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Center of Hope and took your place.
Thank you.
And it was a really nice presentation and a beautiful facility. We've added probably double the size of that facility. And again, I think, that facility helps a lot of people in our community and helps the city of Riverton deal with the homeless and substance abuse folks that we have to deal with in a lot better way than just putting them in jail and letting them sit. And so, I think it's a positive thing for our community, and I think the group has, the Volunteers of America have taken over that facility, and of course, we financially help support them. But I think it's a very positive thing for our community to have this facility there and the good work that they do, and they've done a great job in improving that facility. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hancock?
I would just echo what Councilman Bailey had said. I actually attended that as well and listened to his remarks, and he did a good job. I have to say that I think that it's definitely a benefit to the city to continue to have the relationship we do with the VOA. And the only thing that I wished we had been able to discuss more here when we had the ribbon cutting and everything would be some of the stories of people that have been impacted for better that have been there. And it was good because some of the clients were there, and I was actually able to visit with some of them while I was rushing back to work, and it was good to hear that the change that they've been able to make in the community, and it takes time, and there's no easy solutions to it, but I definitely appreciate VOA for the piece they are of the puzzle, and just applaud their efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Godey?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Ms. Bolander?
Yes, Your Honor, I have 3 items. First is, I think when we have someone attend a council meeting under communications from the floor and has a concern that the council knows that we respond to those concerns. Mr. Ray Applehans was at the August 15th meeting. He had a concern regarding weeds on West Monroe and Major Avenue. That was addressed the very next day. Mrs. Luros took that to Rosie Albright, the code enforcement officer. That property happens to be property of the school district. They have been contacted. I'm not sure what has been happening with that property. However, Mrs. Luros will be happy to report in her weekly report where we are on that property.
Thank you.
And we'll also make sure we get back with Mr. Applehans.
Thank you.
Secondly, it is so exhilarating for me to have been in government for as long as I have and to have elected officials so involved in the governance of their community. And I'm talking about ordinances that we have People are asking me, why are you putting so many laws on the books? We're not. Thanks to Councilman Hancock, we took 7 or 8 off the books. Thanks to Councilman Bailey, when he doesn't like the verbiage of appointment in an ordinance, he brings that to staff's attention, and we change that to designate. I'm thankful for Councilman Godey, who starts asking us about our process when it comes to weeds and debris and abandoned vehicles. What those things do is they force staff to look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. Most of the times, we can't tell you why we're doing it, right? We haven't researched that part. So while I'm getting into this is then September 12th is our next work session, and Mrs. Albright will be here to present to the council what Mr. Godey has been concerned about. In other words, what is in the code? What is the process for different items in the code as far as weeds, abandoned vehicles, debris? And then does she have any recommendations to make that more transparent or to handle the process a little bit better? And Mrs. Lurs and I and Mrs. Albright met last Friday, and I think you're going to be very, very pleased with what you're going to be presented with, but you better be prepared because you're going to have a lot of ordinances coming in front of you. Just as a side note, last year there were 5 ordinances passed. We're at number 21 in the last 6 months. Year before that, there were 11 ordinances passed. So what I'm saying is I think there's a very good partnership going on between the elected officials and staff, and we appreciate the direction. We appreciate the tentativeness that you have given staff, and I also appreciate this leadership team that is so cognizant of what they need to do, and they take no prodding, no reminding, no directives at all. They take the initiative and they do it on their own. So that is a thank you to all. Second or third is if you missed the debrief meeting that we had with employees last Tuesday about the eclipse, we would like to do that presentation next meeting. The reason for next meeting is we'll have the payroll numbers in, we're going to have the expenses in, and we can give you a very detailed report as well as some very good pictures of the eclipse and then some very good compliments that we received on our employees through that event. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Would you address WAMCAT meeting?
I would. Well, Mrs. Watson, why don't you address WAMCAT meeting? I do have to put in a plug. Kristen Watson, our city clerk, has been asked to conduct a seminar during this convention next week on records, and I think that says a lot for her that she's in that position, and she's been asked by an association with 80 or 90 municipal clerks, how do we start a records program, and how do we continue with a records program? So she'll be doing that seminar, but would you like to talk about the convention?
Sure.
Okay.
So the WAMCAT convention will be in Riverton this year, September 13th through the 15th, up at the college. WAMCAT is the Wyoming Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers, so all the treasurers will be meeting. They will have I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I apologize. They'll be having an opening session, I believe, on the a dinner on September 12th. They'll have a dinner and a banquet on the 14th. I should have brought my calendar, sorry.
Well, it's okay. The reason I bring it up is that we've got this invitation to the council to participate in the banquet. And so I just want to make sure everybody on the council knew what it was all about. And get your RSVP in if you're going to be able to attend that. And then there's also something about a breakfast that the town of Pavilion has said that they're going to sponsor, but they don't have enough people to actually put it together, so that they're asking Riverton to assist with that. Do you know if that has been covered, or do we need to find some people to help with that?
We have people.
You've got it covered?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, as you can tell, I have had this cold for about, I don't know, this is the start of the fourth week. And it's better, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. I've strung together 5 or 6 sentences without coughing. And that's quite a little bit better than when I was in the office earlier this last week. And it really has drug on. So I'm grateful to have gotten through. Wasn't the eclipse just absolutely magnificent? I was just, it was so interesting. We were out in our front yard, and as totality hit, there wasn't a vehicle moving on the street, and the town was really quiet. And then you could hear cheering all over. It was like a big football game or something. It was really interesting. I can understand now why people chase that kind of stuff. And then it also struck me that, we may have had 10,000 people come to Riverton, but we didn't ever see them because they were in everybody's backyard. They had come here to Riverton because they had a place to stay, not in a motel, but with family or friends and that type of thing. And so we just didn't have the huge crowds of people that other communities seem to have to deal with. So I was impressed by that. I guess I hadn't given that a thought, that everyone would be dispersed. I just thought they'd all be down on Main Street someplace trying to find a place to park.
There was when I got through on Sunburst Estates, when I was up at my daughter's place, and I drove down. So if you were driving east and west, you had all kinds of freeway space. But if you were going north or south on Federal, the lineup was at the Causeway to Lander was solid. And it got solid on South Pass and to Farson. And I was thinking to myself, how blessed I am just to be able to drive home and know that I can get around. I drove on Broadway and I skirted Federal and got home, and it was just, but there was automobiles from Shoshone clear to South Pass.
Yeah. Well, when then they came in kind of staggered, but when it was over with, man, they all wanted to get out of town at the same moment. Well, wasn't that a marvelous thing? And I'm so blessed to have been able to participate in that and witness that. And I had some grandkids here, and they all had a good time. That was great. We have an executive session tonight. The chair would entertain a motion to convene into executive session for the purpose of personnel, considering the employment, right to practice, dismissal, complaints, or charges against a public officer, professional person, or employee, in accordance with Wyoming Statute 16-405A2, and for the purpose of considering offers, tendering wages, salaries, benefits, or terms of employment during negotiations in accordance with Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A10.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor votes aye, and we convene into executive session 7:58. We're all here. I would entertain a motion to reconvene into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Let's make sure we know who said that.
Lance and Sean.
Lance was,
Okay.
Got your executive session.
Lance, Sean, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We reconvened at 8:58. Okay, we don't have any action items that we have to take on. Adjourn. Tim moves.
Second.
Mike,
Mike, you got it?
Sure.
you did it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned at 59.